There is a scene in the very first Harry Potter film where a young boy looks at a world full of magic for the very first time, and he has absolutely no idea what anything means. He does not know the rules, he does not know the words, he just knows that something extraordinary is happening around him. If you are learning English right now, I want you to think about that boy, because that boy is you. And today, we are going to give you the map.
Exactly, Lucy. And what I love about that image is that Harry does not give up because the world is confusing. He leans in. He asks questions. He makes mistakes, spectacular ones sometimes, and he keeps going. That is the single most important quality any language learner can have.
And we're not just using Harry Potter as a fun metaphor today. We are going to use the actual films, the actual dialogue, the actual British accents, the actual vocabulary as a real structured listening training tool. Because there is so much English gold buried inside those 8 films that most learners walk right past.
Hidden in plain sight. 8 films, over 19 hours of content, multiple British regional accents, formal vocabulary, informal vocabulary, emotional dialogue, humor, argument, fear, love. It is one of the most complete listening libraries ever put in front of a language learner.
And I want to be honest with our listeners from the start. Harry Potter is not easy listening. It is not a beginner's resource. The vocabulary is rich, sometimes archaic, sometimes invented entirely. But that complexity is exactly what makes it such a powerful training tool for intermediate and upper intermediate learners.
Archaic. That's a wonderful word you just used, Lucy.
Oh, let me catch that before we move on. Archaic. Archaic. It means old-fashioned or belonging to an earlier period of time. So when I say some of the vocabulary in Harry Potter is archaic, I mean some words feel very old, very formal, like they belong to a different era. Words like thou or henceforth. You would not hear those in a coffee shop in London, but they appear in spells in old books within the story and in the speech of certain characters. Archaic.
And that contrast between the archaic formal language and the very natural modern teenage dialogue is part of what makes Harry Potter such a fascinating linguistic playground.
Linguistic playground. I love that. Right, Henry, let's get into it. Where do we actually start? Someone opens up Netflix tonight, they pull up Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. That's the British title, by the way. In America, it was called the Sorcerer's Stone. Same film, different title. Why, Henry? Do you know the story behind that?
I do, actually. The American publisher at the time felt that the word philosopher would put young American readers off. They thought children would not pick up a book with that word in the title, so they changed it to sorcerer, which felt more magical and immediate.
Which is a fascinating little cultural and linguistic decision, isn't it? And for our listeners, philosopher, philosopher, is a person who studies the deep questions of life, knowledge, and existence. And sorcerer, sorcerer, is a person who practices magic. 2 completely different words, same film. And this actually teaches us something important about English. The same idea can be packaged very differently depending on whether you're speaking to a British or an American audience.
Language is always cultural, never neutral. I say that to my students on the first day of every semester.
Language is always cultural, never neutral. I might put that on a poster in my classroom. Okay, so our listener is sitting down with the first film. Henry, what is the very first thing they should pay attention to?
The accents. Before anything else, just in the first 10 minutes, count how many different British accents you can hear, because Harry Potter is a masterclass in British accent diversity that most learners don't even realize they're being exposed to.
Oh, this is so good. Let's break this down for our listeners. So, in the Harry Potter films, you have, and I'll try to represent these as best I can in audio form, you have the very crisp, clear, received pronunciation English of characters like Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall. That's the classic BBC English, as Americans tend to call it.
The classic BBC English, as Americans tend to call it.
Exactly. Then you have the warmer, slightly softer accent of characters like Mrs. Weasley, a kind of West Country or home county's warmth to it, very cozy, very maternal. Then you have Hagrid. Hagrid, who speaks with a broad West Country accent. He drops his H sounds, he uses dialect words, his grammar is beautifully non-standard. I shouldn't have said that becomes something closer to I shouldn't have said that in Hagrid's mouth.
And for a learner who has only ever studied standard British English, Hagrid is a revelation and possibly a crisis.
Possibly a crisis. And that's actually a perfect example of why exposure to accent variety matters so much. Because in the real world, when you travel to the United Kingdom, you will not only hear received pronunciation, you will hear Liverpool, you will hear Glasgow, you will hear Cardiff. And if your ears have only ever trained on one accent, the real world will feel very disorienting.
I had a student, a young man from Vietnam, his name was Min, and he had studied British English very carefully for 3 years. He arrived in London for a summer program, confidently expecting to understand everyone. His first conversation was a Liverpoolian taxi driver.
Oh no.
He told me later, "Professor, I understood exactly 3 words. The man asked him something, Min just nodded and smiled, and he spent the entire taxi ride in a state of silent panic, not knowing where he was being taken."
Oh, bless him. And that's not a failure of Min's English. That's a failure of narrow listening training. His ears were tuned to one frequency. The moment the frequency changed, the signal was lost.
Precisely. And Harry Potter gives you multiple frequencies inside one story. Inside one family, the Weasleys, you can hear slightly different rhythms and inflections between the children and the parents. That kind of organic variation is incredibly valuable.
Okay, Henry, let's talk about vocabulary, because this is where Harry Potter gets genuinely interesting. The books and films introduce an enormous amount of invented vocabulary. Spells, creatures, places, concepts, all invented by J.K. Rowling. And I have a theory that learning this invented vocabulary is actually very useful for real English learners. Do you agree?
I do, and I think the reason is rooted in etymology. Most of Rowling's invented words are built from real Latin or Greek roots, and those roots are the foundation of a huge portion of academic and formal English vocabulary.
Etymology. Let me pause there. Etymology. E-T-Y-M-O-L-O-G-Y. Etymology is the study of the origin and history of words, where a word comes from, what its roots are, how it evolved over time. And Henry, you said that Rowling's invented words often come from Latin or Greek roots. Can you give us some examples?
Of course. Take the spell lumos, which Harry uses to light his wand. That comes from the Latin lumen, meaning light. The same root gives us the English words luminous, illuminate, and luminary. So a learner who understands lumos and its Latin root already has a key to unlocking 3 or 4 sophisticated English adjectives.
That's extraordinary. What about expecto patronum, the most famous spell?
Expecto comes from the Latin for I await or I look out for, and patronum comes from patronus, meaning protector or guardian. So the spell literally means I await my protector or I call forth my guardian. And from that root we get the English word patron, someone who supports or protects you, and patronize, which in British English means to treat someone as if they're inferior. Fascinating how the same root can carry such different emotional weight.
I love this so much. And for our listeners, patronize, Patronise. In British English, if someone patronizes you, they speak to you in a way that suggests they think they're smarter or more important than you. It's often considered rude. Don't patronize me is a phrase you might hear in a heated argument. The American spelling is Patronize. Same meaning, different spelling.
This is exactly the kind of deep vocabulary chain that Harry Potter unlocks. You start with a spell in a fantasy film, and you end up with a sophisticated English word you can use in a professional conversation.
Right, so we're not just learning Wingardium Leviosa, we're learning levitate, elevation, levity, the whole family.
Wingardium Leviosa. And I must say, every English teacher in the world has heard a student mispronounce that at some point.
Oh, it's a rite of passage, isn't it? And actually, Wingardium Leviosa is a beautiful listening drill in itself, because in the film, Hermione famously corrects Ron's pronunciation. She says, and I'll try to do my best Emma Watson impression here, it's Wingardium Leviosa. Make the ga nice and long.
Perfect.
And Ron's response is wonderful. She needs to sort out her priorities, which is a very British, very dry way of saying this person is being ridiculous. And sort out, sortout, is a phrasal verb that means to organize, to fix, or to deal with something. Sort out your priorities means decide what actually matters to you. It is used constantly in British English. You will hear it everywhere.
That one scene gives you correct pronunciation modeling, a British phrasal verb, British dry humor, and a lesson in the social dynamics of how British people express frustration without being overtly aggressive. That is 4 English lessons in about 15 seconds of film.
And that is what I mean when I say there is gold hidden in these films. Most learners watch that scene and laugh. The trained learner watches that scene and takes notes.
Shall we talk about the emotional vocabulary? Because I think this is one of the most underrated aspects of using Harry Potter for listening practice.
Oh, yes, please.
The Harry Potter films are enormously emotionally complex. You have grief, you have belonging, you have fear, you have courage, you have friendship and betrayal. And the dialogue that carries those emotions uses very precise, very human English vocabulary that you simply will not find in a business English textbook.
Give us an example, Henry.
Take the scene in the 3rd film, The Prisoner of Azkaban, where Professor Lupin talks to Harry about the boggart. He says something to the effect of, "The thing that frightens you most in the world, and laughter is its greatest enemy." The vocabulary there, boggart, obviously invented, but greatest enemy, what frightens you most, laughter as a weapon against fear, these are deeply human constructions.
And the grammar in that sentence is worth examining. Laughter is its greatest enemy. This is a very elegant, formal construction. In casual speech, you might say, laughter is the best way to fight it, or the best thing against it is laughter. But the formal inversion, placing laughter as the subject and greatest enemy as the predicate, gives the sentence a kind of weight and wisdom. It sounds like a proverb, and English is full of proverbs and sayings that use this formal grammatical structure.
And learners who absorb that pattern from listening, not from studying grammar tables, tend to use it far more naturally in their own speech later on.
Exactly. Your ear learns the music before your brain learns the rules. And then when you read the grammar rule later, you think, oh, I have heard that. I know what that feels like.
That is one of the most beautiful descriptions of language acquisition I have ever heard.
Thank you. I have been saving it. Okay, Henry, I want to do something practical. Let's give our listeners a specific scene-based exercise. If someone wanted to spend just 20 minutes today practicing their listening with Harry Potter, what scene would you assign them and why?
Without hesitation, the scene in the first film where Hagrid first tells Harry that he is a wizard. It is roughly the scene from minutes 22 to 28 in the film. 6 minutes, but it is extraordinarily dense with natural British English.
Why that scene specifically?
3 reasons. First, Hagrid's speech is full of contracted and informal English. Yeah for you, summit for something, I shouldn't have said that for I should not have said that. So you're immediately exposed to how informal British English sounds in reality versus how it looks on a textbook page.
Summit, S-U-M-M-A-T, is a Northern and West Country British dialect word meaning something. Older British people and people from certain regions use it naturally in conversation. If you heard it without preparation, you would almost certainly miss it.
Second reason, the emotional arc of that scene is very clear. Even if a learner misses 30% of the words, they can follow what's happening because the emotion on the actors' faces and the music are doing so much of the narrative work. That visual and emotional scaffolding, scaffolding, like the temporary structure builders put around a building, gives the learner's ears a chance to catch up without losing the thread of the story.
Oh, scaffolding is such a great metaphor for that. The visuals hold the meaning up while your listening skills are still being built.
Exactly. And the third reason, young Harry in that scene is doing exactly what a language learner does. He's receiving enormous amounts of new information, he's confused, he's overwhelmed, and he keeps asking what and why and I don't understand. His questions model exactly the kind of clarification strategies a learner should be comfortable using in real life.
Henry, I never thought about it that way. Harry Potter in that scene is literally modeling how to be a learner, how to ask for clarification, how to say, I did not understand. Please explain.
And he's not embarrassed by it. He's curious. That's the mindset.
Okay, I want to do our practical drill. Henry, one of the most famous lines in the entire Harry Potter series, simple words but a very British construction, is from Dumbledore. It does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. Let me say it slowly first. It does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. Now, at connected speech speed, it doesn't do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. Henry, can you give us the American read of that line?
Kalam. It doesn't do to dwell on dreams and forget to live. You can hear it. American English tends to be slightly forward in the mouth, slightly more nasal on the vowels. The British version floats back a little. Both are valid, but they have a different emotional texture.
And dwell, D-W-E-L-L, is a word worth knowing. It has 2 meanings in English. The first, to live somewhere. He dwells in the countryside. The second, and more common in modern usage, to spend too much time thinking about something, usually something negative or painful. Don't dwell on it. Stop dwelling on the past. Dumbledore uses this second meaning. Do not lose yourself in fantasies or memories. Live in the present.
And this ties to something I tell all my students about listening comprehension at the advanced level. Eventually, you stop listening for individual words. You start listening for meaning, for feeling, for intention. And that's exactly what Dumbledore's line demands of you. The words are simple. Do, dwell, dreams, live, but the meaning is layered and philosophical. That's advanced listening.
Listening for the music, not just the lyrics.
That's the destination.
Henry, we're coming toward the end of our time together today, and I always love to end with the thing you most want our listeners to carry with them. If someone goes home tonight and puts on Harry Potter for the first time as a learning tool, what is the one instruction you would give them?
Without hesitation, Watch the first 5 minutes without subtitles. Just listen. Notice how much you catch and how much you miss. And then write down 3 words or phrases you didn't understand. Just 3. Look them up. Then watch those 5 minutes again and notice how different the second listen feels. That one small loop, listen, notice, investigate, return, that's the engine of everything. Not hours of passive watching, that one deliberate loop.
Listen, notice, investigate, return. That's the most elegant 4-step method I have heard in a long time.
You have 30 years to boil it down.
And it shows. Professor Henry Noonan, as always, thank you for bringing your 30 years of wisdom, your New York warmth, and your extraordinary ability to find the English lesson inside everything, including a children's fantasy film.
Lucy, these conversations remind me why I fell in love with teaching in the first place. Language is everywhere, in spells, in taxi rides, in the way a boy who doesn't know he's a wizard asks, "What?" for the first time. The lesson is always there. You just have to be listening.
You just have to be listening. What a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much, everyone, for spending your time with us on the Clear English channel. Go put on Harry Potter tonight with intention, with curiosity, and with your notebook nearby. Until next time, keep listening, keep growing. Goodbye.
Mischief managed. Goodbye, everyone.